My name is Dacre Stoker. I'm an international best-selling author and great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker, author of Dracula. I've spent the past 12 years searching through archives and museums to understand my famous relative's research and writing process for his classic novel Dracula. 2022 is the 125th anniversary of the publication of Dracula, and I'm thrilled to introduce this special presentation of Orson Welles' Mercury Theatre radio adaptation of Dracula, directed by J. Michaels. Dracula was first published in 1897 in London. Since then, we have seen over 1,000 editions in 30 languages. The book has never been out of print. It entered public domain in 1962. There's been over 700 movie citations with the Dracula character since 1922, and over 1,000 comic book and stage adaptations and counting. Bram wrote Dracula over a 7-year period, mostly on his holidays while he was the manager of the Lyceum Theatre in London. His potential readers, Victorians, were obsessed with the dark mysteries of the occult. In addition to the backroom opium dens and queer theatre, interest was growing in mesmerism, seances, and tarot card readings. Adherence to strict religion was beginning to wane. Freemasonry gave rise to fringe groups like the Order of the Golden Dawn and the Hellfire Club. This was a time of a second enlightenment, a time to challenge existing norms and look deeper into the human mind. Yet those people who were mentally challenged were still being locked up in prisons. Asylums were only just being introduced as a more humane way to hide society's problems. One reason the novel has stayed relevant today and is recognized as a classic is that it provides a glimpse into many of the issues of the time it was written. It's hard to tell which issues Bram meant to stir up and which ones just happened organically, but he certainly struck a nerve. Eastern European reverse colonization, repressed sexuality of females, advances of women in society, American wealth and power being introduced into British society, emerging sciences and technology butting heads with the old established ways. The more I learn, the more I'm convinced that Dracula is the perfect monster ever created. The issues Bram raises in Dracula are still relevant today, and perhaps the best evidence of this creation's perfection is that the monster, Dracula, has endured. We're still talking about the novel 125 years after it was unleashed on the public.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Arthur Seward. I am here tonight to bear witness to the truth of certain events which you may find hard to believe. But I ask you to believe them. I have here certain documents, telegrams, clippings from the press of the day, memoranda, and letters in various hands. All needless matters have been eliminated. Through the history, almost at variance with the possibilities of contemporary belief, they stand forth as simple fact. I present you, first, with excerpts from the private journal of Jonathan Harker.
I, Jonathan Harker, lawyer's clerk, articles to Peter Hawkins, Esquire of Exeter, England. I'm writing this journal in the hope that if misfortune overtakes me, it may one day come to the eyes of those who love me. I set out from London on the last day of April to visit one of our clients in Eastern Europe. On May the 3rd, I arrived in Budapest and came after nightfall to Klausenburg on the border of Transylvania. At Bistritz, there was a letter of welcome for me from our client, informing me that his carriage would await me at the Borgo Pass. It was signed, Dracula.
Bukovina! Coach for Bukovina!
The road was rough, but still we seemed to fly over it with feverish haste. When it grew dark, there seemed to be some excitement among the passengers. They kept speaking to the driver and looking at me and urged me on. crazy coach rocks from its great leather springs. The mountains seem to come nearer to us on either side. Coachman, what is it? Where are we?
You're nearing your destination, young her. This is the Borgo Pass.
There are black rolling clouds overhead, and in the air, a heavy, oppressive sense of thunder. Now we go through the pass.
The young her is not expected after all? You are early tonight, my friend.
A caleche with 4 horses had drawn up beside us.
Come, let me help you, sir.
The coachman smiled, and the lamplight fell on a hard-looking mouth with berry red lips and sharp-looking teeth as white as ivory. We began to move, and I looked back. The coach with its load of passengers had vanished from sight. We swept into the darkness of the pass. I struck a match. It was within a few minutes of midnight. Then a dog began to howl somewhere far down the road. Rising, moaning and whistling through the rocks. The branches of the trees crashed together as we swept along. It grew colder and colder still, and fine powdery snow began to fall. The baying of wolves sounded nearer and nearer, as if they were closing round on us from every side. We kept on ascending, always ascending. The howling of wolves was growing. Presently, it began to fade altogether. And just then the moon broke through the black clouds and eyes to light. I saw around us a ring of wolves running alongside the carriage. White teeth and lolling red tongues with long, sinewy limbs and shaggy hair.
Welcome to my house.
I must have fallen asleep. The carriage had pulled up in the courtyard of a vast, ruined castle. The coachman was nowhere to be seen.
Welcome to my house. Come freely, go safely, and leave something of the happiness you bring.
Count Dracula?
I am Dracula.
The face was very strong, aquiline. The mouth, so far as I could see it under the heavy moustache, was fixed and rather cruel looking, with peculiarly sharp white teeth.
Shh! Do you hear them, Mr. Harker?
Wolves?
The children of the night, as you say, Mr. Harker. The wolves. Listen. Come now. There are many things you must tell me tomorrow. Of England and of the estate. There you have purchased for me.
Ah, yes.
The estate is called Carfax, I believe.
Yes, that's
But now I will detain you no longer. You will find your room in readiness, and I advise you not to leave it during the night.
The castle is on the very edge of a terrible precipice. A stone falling from the window would fall 1,000 feet without touching anything. I explored. There are doors, Doors everywhere, all of them locked. The door to the great hall, the door to the courtyard, every door in the castle is closed, bolted against me. Castle Dracula is a prison, and I am a prisoner. Next night, I could not sleep. So, after a few hours, I got up, and lighting my candle, I placed my shaving mirror on the dressing table and was just beginning to shave.
You feel rested, Mr. Harker?
I had not seen him, although the reflection of the glass covered the whole room behind me. I turned to the glass again. Count Dracula was close to me, and I could see him over my shoulder, but there was no reflection of him in the mirror. It was blank. I started and cut myself on the side of the throat. The blood was trickling down my neck.
Ah!
My mirror!
The blood. The blood. Wipe the blood from your face, Mr. Harker, and take care how you cut yourself. It is more dangerous than you think in this country.
When I awoke, I found most of my things were gone. My passport, my notes, my letter of credit, I could find no trace of them anywhere. And my door was locked from the outside. June 20th. There is work of some kind going on in the castle. Now and then I hear the far away muffled sound of mattock and spade. Last night, the second of 3 dated letters which Dracula made me write. The second of that series which was to blot out the very traces of my existence from the earth, went forth. Count Dracula.
Yes, my young friend.
Well, what of me? When am I free? When can I leave this place?
Free? Mr. Harker, you are always free. You want to leave? Would you like to leave tonight?
Yes. Yes, in God's name.
My dear young friend, not an hour shall you wait in my house against your will. Come, follow me. Your door seems to be bolted. How strange. Your door is locked.
Well, in God's name, open it.
As you will, Mr. Harker. You English have a proverb which is very close to my heart. Welcome the coming, speed departing guests. Good night, Mr. Harker.
Shut the door! Shut the door! Shut the door! Shut!
The door is shut, Mr. Harker. I take it you will remain.
Morning. June the 30th. These may be the last words I ever write in this diary. God preserve my sanity. I have never seen Count Dracula by day. At sunrise, at the first cock crow, he's gone. I don't understand these things. I only know that the wolves are baying and that he is a man with hair on the palms of his hands, with sharp teeth and no blood in his face. He casts no shadow. He cannot be seen in a glass, and he moves like a bat across the sheer face of the castle walls. He eats no food and is mortally afraid of the crucifix. As I write this, I hear in the courtyard the rolling of heavy wheels and cracking of whips. And there is in the passageway a pound of heavy boxes being set down, boxes shaped like coffins. And I know what they hold. The boxes are filled with holy earth from the chapel beneath the castle. The last box being nailed down. Oh. And now I hear the heavy feet tramping again. The door is shut, and the chains rattle. In the courtyard and down the rocky way, the roll of heavy wheels, the cracks of whips. Help! 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 The wagons have gone. I'm alone in the castle. I'm alone in the castle! I'm alone in the castle! I'm alone! I'm alone! I'm alone!
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harker's journal terminates at this point. I now present into evidence a clipping dated August of that year from the Yorkshire Telegraph from my correspondence in Whitby. One of the greatest and sudden of storms on record was experienced here today. The weather has been somewhat sultry, but Saturday evening was fine. The band was playing, the piers were crowded with holidaymakers, the winds went away entirely in the evening, and there was a dead calm. There were but few lights at sea. The only sail noticeable was a foreign schooner under full canvas that was seemingly going westward. A little after midnight came a strange sound from over the sea, and high overhead the air began to carry a strange, faint, hollow booming. Then, without warning, the tempest broke, and there, with all sails set, was the foreign schooner rushing with terrific speed toward the shore. A searchlight was turned on her, and there, lashed to the helm, was a corpse with drooping head, which swayed horribly to and fro at each motion of the ship. A moment later she crashed. Then a strange thing was seen. At the very instant she touched, a huge dog sprang up on deck from below, and running forward, jumped from the bow onto the sand and made straight up the east cliff toward the graveyard, vanishing into the night. The Coast Guard, going abroad at dawn, found the dead man fastened to a spoke of the wheel. Tightly clutched in one hand was a crucifix. The man must have been dead for quite 2 days. In the pocket of the dead man's coat was found a bottle, carefully corked, containing a roll of paper. This proved to be an addendum to the ship's log. There was found on board only a small amount of cargo, and that of a most unusual nature. Apparently, the ship carried nothing but earth, common earth, packed away in wooden boxes shaped much like coffins.
Log of the Demeter, Russian flag. Black Sea to Whitby. July 6th. Finished taking in cargo. A queer cargo. Boxes of earth. At noon, set sail. East wind, fresh. Crew, 4 hands. 2 mates, cook, and myself, captain. July 11th. Entered Bosphorus. At dark, passed through the Dardanelles. Mate reported in morning that one of crew Wielden was missing.
Took larboard watch 8 bells last night. He was relieved by Talesian, who never came to his bunk. There is something aboard this ship. No, don't laugh, Captain. In the rain last night.
Oh,
A tall, thin man go up the companionway and along the dock road and disappear. When I go to the bow, no one. And the hatchways were all closed.
July 22nd. Rough weather last 3 days. All hands busy with sails. No time to be frightened. Past Gibraltar and out through straits. All well. July 24th. Last night, another hand was lost. Disappeared.
Like Talesian, he came off his watch at midnight and we never see him again.
You take your watch now.
I don't take watch alone no more. Double watch.
July 29th. had single watch tonight, as crew too tired to double. When morning come,
Hey! Hey! Malachi below! Malachi, where are the guns? He must be
Malachi.
gone like the others. Like all the others.
the mate and I agreed to go armed henceforth. July 30th, last night. We are nearing England. Weather fine, all sails set.
Captain! Captain, the men! The men on watch are missing! More missing!
Now, only self and mate, and one hand left to work ship. August 3rd, 2 days of fog, and not a sail sighted. At midnight, I went to relieve the man at wheel, and when I got to it, I found no one there.
It's here. I know it now. I see him. Like a man. Taller and thin. Ghastly pale. It was in the bows and looking out. I gave it my knife. But the knife went right through it.
What are you talking about?
It's here! And I'll find it. It's in the hold. In one of those boxes of earth. I'll unscrew them one by one and see.
He's mad, stark raving mad. It's no use trying to stop him. He can't hurt those big boxes. Those are invoiced as common earth.
Ah! He's there, down in the hole. I know the secret now. The sea will save me from him. It's all that's left. Ah!
August 4th, I am all alone on my ship, and still in the fog. I dare not go below. I dare not leave the helm. So here, all night, I stayed. And in the dimness of the night, I saw it. I saw him. God forgive me. But the mate was right to jump overboard. It was better to die like a sailor in the blue water. But I am captain, and I must not leave my ship. I have tied my hands to the wheel. When my strength begins to fail, and along with them, I shall tie that which it dare not touch, my crucifix. I am growing weaker, and the night is coming on. God and the Blessed Virgin help a poor ignorant soul trying to do his duty.
Telegram. Seward, Purfleet, to Van Helsing, Amsterdam. Lucy Westenra in alarming condition. Cannot diagnose. Come at once. Seward.
Telegram, Van Helsing, Amsterdam to Seward Purfleet. I am on my way to you. Please arrange for me to examine your patient immediately. My arrival. Van Helsing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall now explain that 6 months before the events recorded here, I had become engaged to a young lady, Lucy Westenra. We were to be married in the spring. My old teacher, Professor Van Helsing, arrived at 4 the next afternoon. I took him at once to Lucy's house. She lay in her bed, asleep. She was ghastly, chalky pale. The red had seemed to have gone out from her lips and gums, and the bones of her face stood out.
Young miss is bad. Very bad. She must have blood or she will die. She is not anemic. The qualitative analysis of her blood is quite normal condition. It is strange. I do not like to think how strange. Look. My God, her throat. Look!
The black velvet band that she always wore dragged up a little and showed a red mark on her throat. Just over the external jugular vein, there were 2 punctures, not large, but not wholesome looking. The edges were white and worn looking. Well, What is it, Professor? What's wrong with her? Speak frankly. You can tell me the worst.
I wish I could, Seward. I wish I could. But I do not dare.
But won't you tell me anything?
I will tell you this. Your young lady is in a danger greater than death. You must believe me. If you leave her for one moment and harm befalls, you will not sleep easy thereafter.
September 8th. I sat up all night with Lucy.
Arthur, I'm afraid.
My dear, you can sleep tonight. I'm here watching you. Nothing can happen. And I promise, at any sign of bad dreams, if I see anything, I'll wake you at once.
You will? Will you really? Then I'll sleep. My dear Arthur sat all night by my bedside. I did not wake once during the night, although the boughs or a bat or something slapped almost angrily against the window pane. September 11th, from his private journals. It read, 10:20 p.m., St. John's Hospital. Serious complications, case 8921. Your immediate presence in London imperative. He had no choice. Sometime later, a paper was found amongst my belongings. This is what I wrote. I write this and leave it to be seen so that no one may get into trouble from me. I went to bed as usual, taking care that the window was closed as Dr. Von Helsing had directed. About 2 a.m, I awakened. I went to the door, called out, Arthur! Arthur! There was no answer. Something's broken the window. I'm in the room, alone. I dare not go out. The house seems to be empty. The air full of specks, floating, circling in the draught from the window. The light burns blue, dim. What am I to do? Something very sweet and very bitter all around me. Like I'm sinking into deep water. Singing in my ears.
You shall be flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood.
September 12th. Late. Only resolution and habit can let me make an entry tonight. We found her sprawled on the floor. There was a draft in the room from the broken window. The throat was bare, showing 2 wounds, looking horribly white and mangled.
We are too late, my friend. We have failed. God's will be done.
She's dying.
Yes, she's dying. Stay beside her. It will make much difference, mark me, whether she dies conscious or in her sleep.
It was late in the afternoon before she opened her eyes.
Arthur? Oh, my love. I'm so glad you've come.
I took her hand and knelt beside her. Her breath came and went like a tired, peaceful child. And then the light from the setting sun fell on her face, and then, insensibly, a strange change came over her. Her eyes grew suddenly dull and hard. Her breathing was heavy. Her mouth opened, and the pale gums drawn back made the teeth look sharp and large.
Arthur. Oh, my love. I'm so glad you've come. Kiss me. Bend down and kiss me.
Run for your life! Run for your living soul and hers!
Lucy!
She's dead.
Poor girl, lie in peace at last.
Not so. It is only the beginning. Wait and see.
Extra special! Extra special! The Kensington Horror!
Westminster Gazette, September 25th. A Hampstead mystery. The Kensington Horror and the Woman in Black are vividly recalled to mind by a series of events that have taken place recently in the neighborhood of Hampstead. Several cases have occurred of young children straying from home or failing to return from playing on the heath. In all these cases, the children have given as their excuse that they had been with a beautiful lady who offered them chocolates. In each case, the child was found to be slightly torn or wounded in the throat. The wound seemed to be such as might be made by a rat.
Extra special!
Or a small dog.
Extra special! Read about the beautiful lady! Extra special! Hampstead Horror! Read about the beautiful lady! Extra special!
The Hampstead Horror. Another child injured by the beautiful lady. We have just received intelligence that another child, missed last night, was only discovered late in the morning. It has the same tiny wound in the throat. Well, Seward, what do you think of that? You mean to tell me, my friend, that you still have no suspicions as to what poor Lucy died of?
Nervous prostration following on great loss or waste of blood.
And how was the blood lost or wasted? You are a clever man, my friend, and a good doctor, but you do not believe that there are things that you cannot understand. You are wrong, Seward. Are you aware of all the mysteries of life and death? Can you tell me why in the Pampas there are bats that come at night and open the veins of cattle and horses and suck dry those veins? How on some islands of the Western Seas there are bats which hang on trees all day, and then when the sailors sleep on deck because it is hot, sweep down on them, and then in the morning are found dead men, as white as Miss Lucy was.
I understand none of these things.
After tonight, Seward, if you dare to come with me, perhaps then you will understand.
September 29th, before dawn. Now it is done, and I would sooner die 1,000 deaths than to live again what I did this night.
We will spend the night, you and I, here in this churchyard where Miss Lucy is buried. We enter the tomb,
and then
we open the coffin. You shall yet be convinced.
Take care, Van Helsing.
Miss Lucy is dead. Is this not so? Then there can be no wrong to her. But if she's not dead...
With some difficulty, we found the Western tomb. I took up my place behind a yew tree on one side of the tomb, Van Helsing on the other. I was chilled and frightened. Suddenly, I saw something moving between two yew trees, a dim, white figure which held something at its breast. The figure stopped. I could not see the face, for it was bent down over what I saw to be a fair-haired child. There was a sharp little cry, such as a child gives in sleep.
Kiss me. Here, I'll bend down a bit. And kiss me, my darling child.
Then the thing saw us. She drew back with an angry snarl. Her lovely blood-stained mouth grew to an open square. If ever a face meant death, I saw it at that moment. Then suddenly she turned and vanished in the direction of the tomb.
The child is unharmed. We will leave him in a safe place where the police find him. There's more to do. Come!
Now we're in the tomb. There in the coffin, the thing lay. Like a nightmare of Lucy. The pointed teeth, the blood-stained mouth. Van Helsing never looked up. From his bag he took his book, his operating knife, a heavy hammer, and a round wooden stake. 2 or 3 inches thick, sharpened to a fine point, and hardened over a fire.
Seward, the life of this unhappy woman has just begun. Then she becomes what you call undead. There comes with the change the curse of immortality, that she cannot die, but must go on, age after age, adding new victims, because all that die from the preying of the undead become themselves undead and prey on others. So the circle goes on, ever widening, as of the ripples from a stone thrown into the water. But if this lady, this undead, be made to rest as true dead, then the soul of the poor lady whom we love should again be free.
Tell me, what am I to do?
Take the stake in your left hand. There's a hammer in your right.
Yes?
Place the point over the heart.
Here.
Then I begin the prayer for the dead. In God's name, strike.
Oh.
Are you ready? Now, Domine de Priste Spiritus Sanctus.
On the morning of July 11th, a man was found on the border of Transylvania. He talked wildly of wolves and boxes of earth and blood. He gave his name as Jonathan Harker. In a hospital at Klausenburg, he improved sufficiently to make possible his removal to England. I'm still quoting from my own personal papers. But then his condition remained so serious that he was committed for observation to a private ward in my hospital at Purfleet. Here, he did so well that in 3 weeks he was completely recovered. It was during this time that his wife, Mina Harker, brought to the attention of Dr. Van Helsing and myself the journal that her husband had kept while the prisoner in the castle of a certain Count Dracula in Transylvania. I have before me the record of the meeting that took place in my study in Purfleet, transcribed by Mina Harker.
October 1st. Meeting again, 10 after 8. Jonathan next to me, Dr. Seward afterwards, and Dr. Van Helsing at the head of the table.
My friends, there are such things as vampires. Had I known at first what now I know, one so precious a life would have been spared for the many of us who love her. The vampire which is amongst us is himself so strong that he can direct all the elements, the storm, the fog, the thunder. He can command all the meaner things, the moth and bat, the owl, the fox, and the wolf. How then are we to begin our stride to destroy him? How shall we find his place? And having found it, how can we destroy? My friends, it is a terrible task that we undertake. To fail here is not mere life or death. If we fail, we become as him. Foul things of the night, as him. What do you say?
I answer for myself.
Come near.
I'm with you.
The professor laid a small golden crucifix on the table. We took hands, and our solemn pact was made.
My friends, we too are not without strength. The vampire flourishes on the blood of the living. Without this, he cannot live. He throws no shadow. He makes no reflection in the mirror. He can transform himself to a shadow, to a wolf, to a bat. He can come on moonlight rays as elemental dust. He can see in the dark. He can do all these things, yet he is not free. His power ceases at the coming of the day. Then, until night, he must remain in the shape in which he finds himself. And, except in the coffin home, in those earth boxes, he cannot rest. When we can confine him in his coffin, then, my friends, if we obey what we know, we will destroy him.
At that moment, something slapped wildly against the window. Then...
Did you hit it?
I don't know.
we looked out of the window. Against the black sky, you could see nothing.
Data are now positioned. From the Count's Castle in Transylvania to Whitby came 50 boxes of earth. All of these, to our certain knowledge, were delivered at Carfax. Recently, 12 of these boxes have been removed. First step, ascertain whether all the rest remain in the deserted house next door or whether any more have been removed. We must break each of these boxes and sterilize the earth with holy water so he can no longer seek safety in it. And we must hurry.
The events of the next few days are described in Jonathan Harker's journal.
October 2nd, 5 a.m. Just returned from the empty house, left Mina here at home. Well, we've done our work at Carfax. The place was filthy, the air stagnant and foul, and alive with rats. We counted the boxes. Only 38 of them. And over each one, the professor went through his same mysterious work. It was dawn when we got back. Found Mina asleep. She looks paler than usual.
October 2nd. Soon after they left, I fell asleep. I remember hearing the sudden barking of the dogs, and then it was silent. I got up and looked out of the window. There was a thin streak of white mist moving across the grass along the wall of the house. It dawned on me that the air in the room was heavy and dank and cold. The gaslight came only like a tiny red spark in the fog. I could see through my eyelids. The mist grew thicker and thicker. Then, as I looked, the spark divided and seemed to shine on me through the fog like two red eyes.
You shall be flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, blood of my blood.
October 2nd, 8 p.m. We are on the track. 12 boxes, week 37, Piccadilly.
My dear friends, until the sun sets tonight, Dracula must retain whatever form he now has. We have this day to hunt out all his lairs and sterilize them. Then he will have no place he can move and hide. But we only have until sunset.
The house in Piccadilly was empty. Like the one at Purfleet, the same sickening smell is in the air. On the table we found a clothes brush, a brush and a comb, and a basin, the latter containing dirty water which was reddened as if with blood.
The boxes are back here! 8, 9, 10, 11.
Only 11?
There's a 12th box somewhere.
Gentlemen, it is after 6. The sun is setting. We've no time to lose. He will return at any moment. Open the boxes.
Quiet.
Listen. Here it is. It is he!
The window!
You waste your bullets, gentlemen. You think you baffle me? You with your pale faces all in a row like sheep in a butcher's shop. You think you have left me without a place to rest? But I have more, and time is on my side. The one you love is mine already. I have known her. Already my mark is on her throat. Flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. She is with me always, over land and sea.
October 4th, morning. Another meeting in the study at Purfleet.
We must find that last remaining box. Gentlemen, we must find it. As long as that earth exists and pure, as long as there remains one place of refuge for Dracula, there is no safety and no peace for any soul in England.
And for the undead, never peace so long as he lives. Blood of my blood. Blood of my blood.
Mina!
How do you know that?
Shh, quiet, quiet.
With me always, over land and sea.
Mina, darling, how did you know that Dracula said those...
I don't know. The words just came. Strange. There are times when somehow I feel I'm with him.
At sunset?
Yes. Just as the sun sets, and again at sunrise. Dr. Van Helsing, if I could, if at those times you...
Have you the courage?
The courage for what? What do you mean?
Dr. Van Helsing here will question me.
I will question her, yes, in a state of hypnosis. The one you love is already mine, he said. She is with me always over land or sea. Count Dracula. Perhaps she will betray you. If she really is with you, this one we love, who knows? If she is really with you over land or sea.
Blood of my blood.
Mina.
Yes?
Answer me, Mina. Are you with him?
Yes, I am with him.
Where are you?
I do not know. It was all dark.
What do you hear?
The lapping of water. I can hear it on the outside.
Then you are on a ship.
Yes.
What else do you hear?
There is the creaking of an anchor chain.
What are you doing?
Still. Oh, so still. It is like death. It is like death.
Here is a report from the Matson Peabody, shipbrokers, dated October 5th. According to Lloyd's lists, the only sailing ship that left for the Black Sea yesterday was the Tsarina Katrina, bound for Varna. Somehow, before she sailed, a man came alongside, all in black, driving a cart with a great box in it. This he lifted down single-handed and carried below. No one remembers having seen him after that. A heavy mist came up over Doolittle Dock until sailing time. The rest of London Harbour remained completely clear.
Our plans are made. The average sailing time from London to the Black Sea is 3 weeks. We can travel overland to the same place in 3 days. We shall be there waiting for him when he arrives.
October 15th. Arrived Varna at about 5 o'clock. Mina feels stronger. Every morning before sunrise and just before sunset, she speaks to Van Helsing in a trance.
Are you with him, Mina? Tell me, are you with him?
I am with him.
What can you see?
Nothing. All is dark.
What can you hear?
I can hear the waves lapping against the ship and the water rushing by. The wind is high. I can hear it in the shrouds and the foam.
So, the Tsarina Katrina is still at sea, hastily to Varna. The Count cannot cross running water, so he cannot leave the ship without being observed.
What do you hear, Mina?
Lapping waves and rushing water. Darkness. Darkness.
A whole week of waiting. Dated telegram from Lloyd.
Not yet reported. Not yet reported.
Rushing water. Rushing water. Creeping mist. Darkness. Darkness and wind.
October 24th, telegram, Lloyd's, London to Hawker. Tsarina Katrina reported this morning from Dardanelles. Lloyd's, London to Hawker, October 28th. Tsarina Katrina in heavy fog. Reported entering Galatz Harbor at 1 o'clock today.
Galatz. Galatz is 38 hours from here, and the first train for Galatz leaves at 6:30 tomorrow morning. My friends, we have lost.
I am with you. I can see nothing. Nothing. I can hear men's voices calling in the roar and the prick of the wind. I can feel the air blowing.
October 29th, evening. We are due between 2 and 3 in the morning, but already at Bucharest, we are 3 hours late.
What's going on? I feel something pass me like a cold wind. I can hear far off confused sounds as of men talking in strange tongues, fierce, falling water and the howling of wolves. There is another sound. How queer a sound. Like...
What? Speak, Mina, speak. I command you to speak.
Arrived in Galatz. Saw the captain of the Tsarina Katrina.
Welcome aboard. We are over an hour before sunup. We receive a box for a party by name of Dracula. And his papers are right. Emanuel Hildensheim, his name was.
Mr. Hildesheim,
Yes?
you unloaded a box yesterday.
Yes, I got from Kyloff by order. Yes, Kyloff.
Mr. Kyloff?
Oh, no. This morning they find him dead inside the churchyard of St. Peter. They find him dead with his throat tore open.
October 30th, evening.
There are two ways in which Dracula can get back to his own place. By land or by water.
We've examined the map and found the most likely river is the Sereth.
You and I, Seward, will chart a steam launch and follow him up the river. Van Helsing and Mina will take a train to Veresti, and from there...
From there, we shall go into the track where Harker went to Bistrica over to Borgo. If you have not caught him before, we shall be meeting Dracula there.
October 31st. We arrived at Veresti at noon. Van Helsing and I brought the carriage here. We start in an hour. Our enemy is still on the river.
October 31st. We can earn good speed up the river at night. There's plenty of water, and the banks are wide apart.
November 1st, evening. No news all day. We hear that a big boat went up the river before us, going at more than usual speed.
November 4th, all day driving. The country gets wilder as we go. By morning, we should reach the Borgo Pass.
November the 4th, evening. We have left the launch. We've got horses, and we follow on the track along the river. We are armed.
Look! Quick! There they are now, heading west!
Through the dawn, we could see the Slovaks some miles before us, dashing along the river with their wagon. On it is a great box.
Late in the afternoon, we leave the Borgo Pass.
Van Helsing, look! Look!
We could see a long way all around. Far beyond the white waste of the snow, like a black ribbon curling between us and the river, not far off, came a group of men, mounted Slovaks, riding along. In the midst of them was a wagon that swept from side to side, and on the wagon was a great box.
Look!
We see two horses following fast, coming up from the south, Seward and Harker. The Slovaks with their heavy wagons are losing their ground. Now they cannot be much more than a mile behind. Now the wagon is quite closer. We can see the great box laying bravely. Now they are almost upon us! And the wagon smashed into a great rock, buried in the snow, lost its front wheel and turned over on its side, jammed against the stone. The horses tore loose from their traces and bolted, and the Slovaks scattered and vanished after them. Then silence. Silence like comes after ringing a bell.
Look! His face!
It is Dracula, sprawled out stiff and twisted in the smear of his own holy earth. The box, in falling, has emptied the dirt onto the snow. His face is old-looking. The skin is like paper. Dr. Seward, there is no time. Look at the sun.
Sunset.
In 1 minute, it is sunset, and he is forever lost to us. Have you the stake of wood and the hammer?
Yes.
Now, Seward, pray for us. Kneel down and pray. Harker, the stake of wood over his heart. Be not afraid, Harker. Do not look into his eyes. The hammer. Now, Harker, strike! Strike!
Flesh! Flesh of my flesh! Guilt of my guilt! Death of my death! Speak and be manifest in the instant of your master's peril! Elements of darkness! Rain! Evil wind! Mist! And mold! And tempests!
Strike!
The others couldn't, but I somehow could hear him speaking behind his eyes.
Claw, wind, tooth, scale, tissue of flesh, death of my death, dead and undead. The hand of the living is over your master. Console me, my children. This instant is no longer than the space between two heartbeats. But the night is not here, and I am lonely. Come to your master, my children! Beguile him now in the instant of his peril. Beguile him in the sound of your names. Claw, wind, tooth, scale, tissue of flesh. Claw, wind, tooth, scale, tissue of flesh.
Strike, Harker! Strike!
There is one very dear to me who has not answered. My love, Mina. There is less than a minute between me and the night. You must speak for me. You must speak with your heart.
Give them to me! Jonathan, give them to me! Give me the stick of wood and the hammer!
Harker!
I shall never forget that moment. The look on poor Mina's face as she stood there, the angry scar standing out on her throat, her eyes like living coals in the last red of the sunset. She had torn the stake and the hammer out of my hands with the strength of an animal.
Mina, do you know what you have done, woman? Do you know what you have done to us? You have released him. The evil is free.
Look! The sun!
As we looked down at Dracula, the eyes saw the sinking sun, and the hate in them turned to triumph.
Flesh of my flesh, come to me, my love. Come into the night and the darkness. You have served me well, my love, my bride, my...
Ladies and gentlemen, all the evidence is now before you. I've added nothing, and to the best of my knowledge, I have omitted nothing that might help to throw light upon the extraordinary events of the year 1891, which culminated on that terrible evening in the Borgo Pass. There remains only this one last report.
When Mina Harker seized the stake and hammer from her husband, I believe she was under some form of hypnosis. She herself remembers nothing, but whatever influence was at work on her, she must have at the last moment have rejected it. For at the exact instant the sun disappeared, it was Mina Harker who drove the stake to the heart of the thing that called itself Dracula. At the same instant, even as we looked, the wound on the side of her throat was no more. As for Dracula, before the screams of the creature had died from our ears, the whole body crumbled into dust and passed from our sight. In the final moment, there was, in the face, a look of peace, such as I could never have imagined might have rested there.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm Jay Michaels. I'm Count Dracula, and I wanted to introduce you to your entire cast. If everyone could turn on their cameras now. You have Paul Sheehan as the tortured Jonathan Harker. You have Joseph Anise as the, oh my goodness, I used to be religious, but oh, things have changed, Arthur Seward. You have Jonathan Rios, and you have Vincent Ticali, who have been everything on 3 different continents during this. You have Jim Haynes, who was Van Helsing and absolutely masterful in commanding all of these people. And you had 2 very courageous women. As you've heard from Bram Stoker himself, that this was an era where women gained the power, and we saw this in 2 powerful performances. We saw this with Lydia Kalman as the poor sad ending up being Vampire Lucy, and then we have the hero. We have Sarah Miniscaro, who was able to drive the stake to Dracula himself. A huge thanks to Queens Performing Arts Center for this, to Susan Agan for producing this. We open the floor to questions to all of you that are watching this. Please feel free, if you have any questions about this,
please feel free to text in or to, I guess it's text in.
Thank you, Jay. Susan here, and we are receiving some information now. If you just stand by for a moment, we also want to give a shout out to John Sinise, who did our sound effects for tonight. Thank you for that. We've got a lot of accolades. Bravo, everyone! You can see it right there, and lots of applause from Tina and Wendy. So we're just going to open up the floor. If anybody has any questions, now's your time. Please type them in the comment section below. And just a little music while we wait. Stand by, please.
Thank you. That's what I was going through my head.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Karina. We had a blast. I'm glad you did also.
I love that music.
It's so un-Dracula, though. Thank you, Dr. Ford. We would love to, Catherine. That is completely up to Queens Performing Arts Center. This, by the way, was the from the original Mercury Theater Orson Welles broadcast. What many don't know, and it's ironic, but this was the very first Mercury Theater, the great Mercury Theater that we know of. This was the very first broadcast. So we had yet the third auspicious occasion for this. The three that I mentioned. One is we are celebrating this year the 125th anniversary of the printing of Dracula. In this month, just a few days ago, really, was the 100th anniversary of the premiere of Nosferatu, the very first film version of Dracula. And there's a whole story that Dacre Stoker tells about how Bram Stoker's widow had to sue the German film company because they didn't get the rights to the show. And supposedly the court order was that all copies were destroyed. I guess that didn't work out well. But so we have that. And now we did the very first Mercury Theater broadcast, which ironically is Dracula. Thank you, Donna. I'm glad you could be with us. What inspired you to come up with the concept for showing the broadcast? That's a real interesting question. We did with QPAC, we did two others. We did a brilliant A Doll's House, Ibsen's A Doll's House, which, by the way, those of you here from QPAC, it has been chosen as a notable production of 2021, and it will be archived. The review of it is archived in a book written by Jan Ewing. Jan Ewing is a known commentator for high drama on television, and he writes, and he has for the last 4 years done archival books, and now we're in it. And then we did Mask of the Red Death around Halloween time, I believe. And when Dacre, who I know well, was talking about the festivities, I thought, well, why don't we see if QPAC would like Dracula? And here we are.
That's absolutely true. This was really a fabulous, it was really brought to our attention by Dr. Robin Ford, who's with us tonight, because so many of the students at Queensborough in the English department were reading the novel. And so we were anxious to bring them a live adaptation. And Jay Michaels is the king of live adaptation. So here we are. There was a question about how we were able to switch from character to character in this format. And the actual software allows us to have that flexibility. And also the actors, in this virtual forum, you can't simply just act. You've got to be able to do a lot of other things, a lot of other technical things that we've all had to learn during the pandemic. And so each actor was actually controlling their entrances and exits. So thank you for that question. Again, we have great job, everyone. Very entertaining. Thank you so much. And Catherine is asking maybe for a War of the World next.
I would crawl over broken glass. I would,
Yikes.
whatever you need to do, War of the Worlds.
Wow.
War of the Worlds is historic on so many levels. There are so many apocryphal stories of it. Supposedly, Orson Welles didn't know. He literally created a panic. But there is the story that one of his people whispered to him during the broadcast, "Do you know you are scaring the world?" And he looked and said, "Good." So whether he knew or not, the self-fulfilling prophecy of War of the Worlds, as people don't know, back then the only medium was radio. Your newspaper didn't come out till the morning, so you were watching radio. And we were innocent enough to not switch to other stations to see what was going on. So when he did War of the Worlds, everyone was listening, and they thought it was an actual broadcast. And then it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, because on the broadcast, they said, "The Martians have landed in New Jersey. The roads are blocked. The phones are tied up." So everyone grabbed the phone to call their loved ones, tying up the phones. And then they jumped in their cars to get to their loved ones, blocking the roads. So it all happened that way. It's a brilliant broadcast, and oh, let's do War of the Worlds.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ford, for this next great question. What was the behind the decision to not show Count Dracula and just use his voice? It's interesting that you brought that up. We were just talking about that before the broadcast. I think it made the story creepier.
Yep.
Jay, do you want to handle that? We
Sure.
thought so too. We thought so too.
Ironically, I look like Dracula according to Bram Stoker. He has a mustache, a bushy mustache, and I guess he has lines on his face or whatever, but the bushy mustache and whatever. But to say to any audience nowadays, this is what Dracula looks like, you're going to not convince someone. Dracula is everything from Nosferatu's rat-like face all the way through to Frank Langella's sensuous look. When Frank Langella did it on Broadway, someone asked him, they said, "How are you playing this part?" And he quoted the Bible. He said, "The devil hath charms to assume a pleasing shape." And so Dracula is everything in between. And I thought to try to hand the audience one image of Dracula is not going to work. So let them hear the voice and let them decide what Dracula looks like underneath it.
When I was on the ship, I was imagining you, Jay, though.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Would you consider Citizen Kane as a broadcast? Wow.
Wow.
I don't know if they ever did Citizen Kane as a radio show, but if there is a script, wow, that would be something to do. That's a big project. Considering that the scope of that would be amazing. That takes rehearsal, that takes time, that takes the whole works. And very good looking as a Dracula. Whomever you are, you're my new best friend. How are you all cast for these roles? I'm taking all credit and no credit. These are individuals that I've known through different projects, through different productions. That's all I'm going to say on me. What I'm going to say elsewhere is that these are brilliant people, period. These are brilliant performers. They're brilliant on so many levels. They're brilliant as actors, but they're intuitive enough to understand how to mold a character and then put it into this little box. Each person here has, in one case, in 10 cases, in 100 cases, shown me that they are really expert actors. And when and there was no audition per se. When I was doing this, I said, okay, do I have brilliant actors? Yeah, fine, no problem. So I congratulate them on being absolutely marvelous and thank them for when I called and said, Can you get on Zoom and pretend you're bitten by me? They all said yes.
We want to remind you to check out www.visitqpac, that's QPAC.org, for upcoming programs and events, both virtual and in person. You can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, and always be notified when we go live virtually and in person. And we have one more question. Karina, where can we expect to see all of these performers in the future? Any upcoming events to plug? Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to plug anything upcoming?
I will. I don't know who's going to get to come and see it though. Just before I literally rushed in the door, so I'm over in Ireland right now, and I'm currently in the thick of rehearsals for a production of Noel Coward's Present Laughter.
Wow.
I'm playing Gary Essendine. And I just want to say hello to all my Irish peeps who are up now at 1:45 in the morning watching. So, and also, I'm sure Lydia is going to drop this too. Check out the Dark Offerings on Amazon Prime right now. Check it out.
Paul and Lydia did an absolutely brilliant genre film, a horror movie. I could say it in this atmosphere, of course, and they were quite wonderful in it. And it is probably the first horror film done during pandemic and utilizing social distancing. So they actually, with masterful editing, they did a film on Zoom, and it was really wonderful. It was really wonderful to watch.
I'll add that you can see our friend Vinny Ticali, who was playing the captain, and other voices. If you're ever driving around, look up at the billboards. Look closely at your magazines and TV commercials, because
Right.
Vinny is a popular face on all those mediums. So, but everybody really, from QPAC, we thank you all for taking this project on with such enthusiasm and and commitment. We thank you all. And yes, this program will reside on YouTube. All you need to do is go to the Queensborough Performing Arts Center, and it will reside there so that it can be watched by our students and future students, and also the community, and really anyone and anywhere in the world. So I want to thank you all for staying with us tonight and partaking in this very different production. And we hope to bring you more of these types of programs in the future. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you to all of our actors, and of course our technical director John Sinise, and our director Jay Michaels from the Queensborough Performing Arts Center. We're signing off. Thank you all so much. Good night now.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you all,
Susan.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You were brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.